What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It is me again, Den Wood, back. I'm here to show you something. Recently, I built something kind of cool. In my world, it's cool. In your world, I don't know. I don't know you. I don't know you very well. But I'm just here to show you what I made. That is all. So, why don't we run my silly little intro and then we'll get right to it. Cool.
Welcome to Denwood.
Well, there you have it. Why am I here talking to the camera? I don't think I've done that before on this channel. Not like this. Well, I'm about to tell you. I began this project a month ago. I finished it like a month ago. And what I did was, because I'm building stuff on my channel, I'm in the middle of building a house, which I've put on pause for a while. And I have another project that I want to start soon, but I've been kind of doing those kind of videos. And I figured this time with this resin project, I would record every detail of the process. Some of the process I was inventing and some of it is old shit. So I strapped a camera to my head and for a week straight recorded every detail of the process, the trial and error, and the process of this resin project that I made. Now, after it was done, I just had to edit the video, and I told myself I'm not going to start the next project until I finish the project and edit the video. But for a month, I've not been able to bring myself to edit the video, which is why we're doing this right now, why I'm talking to you, because we're going to just scrub through the footage that I've taken real fast and get it done with, because it was boring. I have hours of me sanding, hours of just sanding in time-lapse fast motion. I have hours of me fumbling around the garage trying to look for tools. I have hours of just no audio, just spouting nonsense. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It was so freaking boring. I myself could not bring myself to edit it. So that's why we're doing this. I just want to show you this cool project. So what we're going to do, we're going to scrub through the footage, as I mentioned, quickly with what I already have open on my editor. And I'm just going to show you the final product. Get it done with, as it always should have been. So first things first, what is the project? Well, you see this bed back here? I made a large scale resin project to kind of solve a problem that I had with this bed. This is a California king bed. I liked the frame. I bought it a long time ago. I just liked it. Later, I went and bought a king mattress. It was a great deal, great mattress. And I put it on the bed and realized I had like this much empty space at the end of the bed that just felt and looked like crap. There's slats underneath the bed, and so with that big hole there, like there's also some drawers. I don't know if you can. There's some drawers underneath, but there was this big hole, and I have a dog. He would shed. It would go down in that hole. It was just gross and a mess, and I wanted to do something with it. So I thought, what better way to solve that problem than to make like a bench, some sort of footrest. I can tie my shoes at the end of the bed, kind of make it useful. And I've been wanting to really do a good resin project for a long time, like learn some more of the process and I just kind of get my hands dirty and see if it's something I like to do. I had some old wood from trees that I cut down on the property, so I'm like, boom, 2 birds, 1 stone, resin bench, wood, resin. I'll figure out things on my own, ways to make this process easy or better or whatever. We'll make a video, it'll be great. And that's none of that happened. So yeah, today I'm just gonna kind of walk and talk and go through the footage that I have quickly and show you the project that I made. This project is my bedside bench resin project. So here we go. So, what better place to start than right here with my dumb ass and a camera strapped to his head. That's good. I was positive. I was happy. I was ready to get this project. I was going to record everything and just really kill this video. Boy, how that did not work. This is me here, kind of giving you an idea of what the end of the bed looked like, and going to the trash for some reason. But yeah, that's the area I had to measure. There's my dumb face again. Here we are. Come on, buddy. What are you doing? What are you doing with the bed? It's a mess. Yeah, it's a mess. The bed's a mess. Aye. Okay, come on. Let's come back. Let's come back to the part we're trying to show the audience. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't care anymore. Just want to get this done. Come on. There we go. So yeah, that's the spot of the bed that's been bothering me, and I needed to put my foot up and tie my shoe. Just like that. It's perfect. So how was I going to get that done? Well, I was going to mix the wood from the trees I cut down and a shitload of resin. I found a place online, theresinstore.com, where they are probably the cheapest resin that I've been able to find. And I think it's like $200 for 5 gallons, which is pretty good. I don't know if it's the best quality or the clearest resin in the world, but it gets the job done. So here I am now. There's a piece of wood I was going to use. I was chopping and scraping the bark off of that wood, measuring it, getting ready to cut it. I spent hours and hours and hours cutting this wood to try and figure out how I was going to place it in the mold that I was making. There I am, trying to use a chainsaw. That didn't work. Got another saw. Yeah, it took me a really long time to cut this wood. I had terrible tools. It was a pain in the butt. I ended up using that circular saw there that we just saw a second ago to cut that wood straight down the middle. Then I began by trying to figure out how I was going to build a mold. At first, I was going to use the bottom of the mold. I was going to maybe use drywall to just kind of keep it stable. So I found some pieces of drywall. I was trying to line it out. It didn't quite work. This was a much longer project than I originally thought. It was 77 inches long, which is quite long, and that drywall wasn't enough to handle it. So I pulled out the bench, and I was just kind of trying to figure out what I can use to have enough length to build a mold for this project. I found this old bench top. It was a project that I've been working on for years that I ended up using. Let's see if we can go back to it. Maybe it's over there. Whatever. And then I added some wood at the end. This is me cutting a bunch of wood piece by piece so I can just have something stable underneath the mold. So it's that long bench, some pieces of wood, as you can see here, and then I was going to put some stuff on top, and now we have our base for the mold to pour this resin bench. One of my biggest issues with resin projects that I've seen online is that kind of the best way to do it is to buy that particle board that has I think it's plastic siding on it, and you can build your molds, build a box out of that, and generally it separates from the resin easier. It's easy to screw together, but the price of wood is so expensive nowadays. I went to Home Depot, and 77-inch length of that, it's going to cost a lot of money. A small square of it was like $30. I just wasn't having that. So I found this. I don't know if you can see it here. This type of thin siding. One side is really smooth and one side is kind of has a coarse kind of feeling to it. And I thought to myself, if I can figure out a way to support this flimsy mold and then spray some mold release on it, then this would be a cheap way to do it. This whole giant panel, size of a huge piece of plywood, was like $10 or something like that. So I thought it was a great idea to try and make the mold with this. Some of the challenges that I found were like exact measurements. It's flimsy, so it likes to bend. It wasn't the simplest material to use for making a resin mold. And there will have to be a lot of trial and error that goes with this. But this project here, this bench, didn't necessarily need to be perfect. It needed to be straight, but if there's some little bends here and there, if it's not exactly perfectly straight, it didn't matter because there's a mattress on the bed. So if there's a little curve here and there, it's just gonna kind of push the mattress in a bit. So I was okay with it not being perfect. So yeah, this was my initial thought, to build with this particle board. You can see me cutting it there as well. Seal it up, pour the resin, put the wood in, pour the resin, boom, you got a bench. One of the biggest things when you're making a mold, depending on the material, like if you have something that's plastic as your mold, it's going to be really easy to separate the resin from it. If you're using that particle board with like the plasticky siding, it's going to be easy to separate the resin from it after it dries. But even with those materials, in almost all materials, you really should use mold release. So I went out and I bought like 4 cans of spray mold release for this project because I had this idea that this was a grand idea to buy this cheap flimsy board, spray it with the mold release, everything would be simple. And like every single project that I've ever done, I always fuck it up. I just do. One way or another, I'll end up fixing it, but I screw up so much. In this case, as you can see here, I was building out the base of the mold and sealing it up with caulk. Next, I started to build up the sides. Let's see if we can find that area of the video. There we go. I have some bricks there. I was cutting out the side panels for this mold. Just a big rectangle. That's all I'm doing here, is building a big rectangle. I realized it was so flimsy, I was going to need something to hold the sides stable. So I used these bricks. They seem to work. Again, it wasn't a perfect measurement. Since these things are flimsy, I would have had to measure on the rectangular area from top to bottom. I don't know if that makes sense. All the way down the entire 77 inches to make sure it was the same exact width in order to kind of really make this perfect. I just didn't care that much. I didn't do that, so I eyeballed it a lot, got the siding up, threw in the caulking, just kind of wanted to move quickly and get this project done, being that it's my first big resin project. There we go. You can see that I'm pretty much utilizing those resin bottles and bricks. Was able to get the sides up after I cut them. You can see that I've caulked all the way in the inside and then around the outside as well. Once again, I need to confess, I was rushing. I wanted to pour the resin as soon as possible because I was excited. I was just excited. So I wanted to pour that night, and I didn't give all the resin enough time to dry. The box looked great. It was fairly even. I say fairly. It wasn't perfectly measured, but it was pretty good. That's all I needed. And I thought that I had let it dry enough, the caulking dry enough, and I said screw it. And that night, I decided I wanted to go ahead and do a pour. My next move after building that box was to place the wood from the tree inside the box and fill up as much space as possible. What you're looking at right now is me lifting up that long board that I cut and just shoving chunks of wood underneath it so it'll remain flat, but I don't want to fill up, I don't want to go through too much resin. You know, the board, since it came from a tree, it was rounded, and then I cut that in half, so basically it had like a tapered edge, which means even though it was flat on the top, the bottom kind of came up from underneath and had a whole lot of space, like a big gap all the way down the mold. So basically I was shoving wood under there to just fill up space within the mold so I could use less resin. And there I am, just cutting. placing wood, getting everything right. I didn't need to make it that level. I didn't really care, because at one point, as long as it's pretty much level, I was just gonna sand down all the areas that were higher or lower and trying to get like an even plane. That was the plan. So there I am, placing the wood, making my cuts, doing what I gotta do, and here's the beautiful resin pour. I'd been waiting. I guess it was like the same night, really. I don't know. Maybe it was 2 days. I'm pretty sure the night that I built the box is the night that I poured the resin. And the problem that occurred was that I didn't let the caulk dry enough, and I had a massive leak. Thankfully, I don't know if we'll show it here, but I ended up cutting so much wood that there was loads of sawdust. So as it was leaking, I was basically just stuffing the leaks with sawdust, hoping that it would kind of create a patch and stop the leak. It did to an extent, kind of worked, but it wasn't perfect. And as most people do, they'll utilize a blowtorch to kind of keep the bubbles down. At the end of the day, after I did this pour, I wanted to go to bed. I mixed the resin in a giant bucket on like full speed, so I created a load of bubbles. At the end of the day, I just didn't care. I just wanted to get this thing done, and I didn't mind the bubble so much because it was my first project. So, there it is. Yeah, as you can see, it's leaking right there. You can see some sawdust on the side of the mold. That was me trying to fix a leak. Hurry through this. Now I'm getting bored of this. This is like the easy version, the less boring version of this video to try and show you what I made. And I'm getting bored right now. Right now. I'm not gonna make videos like this again. I'm not. No way. But here we go. Let's continue. Some more resin pouring. There we go. There we go. Some resin mixing. That's happening. Yeah, see, this is me not caring about bubbles. There are ways to mix resin to where you don't do that. There are like rubber mixer ends that you could use. Obviously, you don't pull back on the drill so hard, so it doesn't turn as quickly, and you spend a little more time, a little finesse, a little caring mixing the resin to kind of keep it from bubbling. At this point, those tasks were a little difficult, and like I said, this isn't the best resin in the world, so keeping bubbles out was difficult, and I don't have a pressure machine to pull bubbles. Also, resin like this, and you're using this much, you can't just blowtorch them all out, because I'm doing big pours, thick pours, and inevitably a lot of those bubbles got trapped in the resin. It's a bit cloudy, but I didn't care. I really didn't. Just wanted to make this bench so I can move on to other projects. Here we are, pouring some more resin. This is the more satisfying part of the video. And it really does make the wood shine, just look so much prettier once it's encased in resin. It's almost like getting it wet, basically. When you wet down dry wood, it has a shine to it, and essentially that's what the resin is doing as well. It's kind of giving it that same look, same quality. There you have that. Moving right along. Here we go the next day. What happens? Let's see what happens. Looks pretty good there, I'm not gonna lie. You can see how much it leaked. Right there is hard. You can see those wood chunks that I placed in. You can see how I laid the wood in that configuration just to kind of have the best, flattest angle. And yeah, you can really see the leaky areas. Kind of down toward the bottom. There you go. There was a lot of places that my mold worked and that the caulking survived. I just didn't wait long enough. I just was in too much of a hurry, and that's the biggest lesson for something like this. I'm gonna go ahead and skip forward and tell you the second biggest lesson that I learned. I was really hoping to solve a problem with resin builds that problem again is that the mold materials are so expensive. And I thought I was geniusly figuring something out, and I wanted to show the world. But my big mistake is that I forgot to spray the mold release. And it nearly ruined the entire project. That looks great. The resin's looking good there. It's hardened up. I fixed the leaks. But we're about to find out how difficult not putting the mold release in made this, because that particular material, being that it's kind of paper-based, like cardboard-ish, flimsy paper-based, paper-based, that sounds like a weird word, it was glued and resined to it became part of the resin because the mold release didn't work. It was awful. You can see there that it is getting cloudy toward the top. That last pour really got cloudy, and it was, again, me just not caring and wanting to rush through this. It might have been the last pour. I think I may have started to sand after that. I'm not sure, but let's take a look here. I mean, it looks cool. It looks cool like that. But we're going to find out that it became almost impossible to separate the mold pieces. I think this is me cracking it off. Cracking it off. Had I put the mold release on, I believe it would have separated quite nicely. This was just miserable. You can see there, look at that. It's like paper, but glued into the resin. Later on, as you'll see, this ended up taking me days of sanding just to get down through and past that papered resin. It was just freaking awful. I would try this method again, by the way, with this type of mold, using the mold release on a much smaller project so that I don't have to go through so much pain. Here we are here. We'll do some sanding footage for all of you to enjoy. And when I say days, I'm not kidding. I would come out into the garage for like 4 hours a night and sand. I was dedicated. I needed to get this frickin' project done because I wasn't going to give up, and I knew it would look cool. So that's me sanding. And this is fast motion. You can see, time lapse, that not much of that paper is coming off. And I've got hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of footage of me doing this. A ridiculous amount. Look at the bottom side there. That was the most difficult, was getting all that paper off of the bottom. I'm not even sanding it in this part of the video here, but you can see how caked on and hardened into the resin it is. It was miserable. Oh yeah, we haven't even started. Oh, this is somehow my videos are out of order. This is right when I'd begun to pull off demolding. It did look really cool right after the pour. Where do we go from here? More sanding. How about that? Want to see some more sanding? Let's check out some more sanding. This is when I finally start the bottom. I was using a belt sander with like 60 grit, which is pretty rough grit. Like, it doesn't get much grittier than 60, and it still was just not doing the job. Look at that. This is a perfect example. That was time lapse. What was it? 30? Wait, does that say 36 grit? It wasn't even. Do you see what I'm saying? And it was barely getting the job done. Meanwhile, with such a grit like that, I'm just scratching the hell out of this resin, which will just take more sanding. Got to get down to those scratches and use higher and higher grit sandpaper, more and more and more, over and over and over. I think I took this all the way up to 4,000 grit, and it just took 4 hours a day for at least a week. It's really, at this point, still have a lot to work to do on the sides, but it's really starting to kind of come into its own at this point, many days later. This is when we're really getting into the higher grit sandpapers. As you can see, I'm wet sanding now. You can see all those little chunks of wood. This looks like the bottom, so apparently have, after many days, finally sanded down all that paper resined garbage and found my way down into the magic. Here I am showing the details of this block. At this point, I think it's already looking cool. That's the bottom. It's not going to show, and so you can see a lot of the air bubbles kind of sparsed around in there. But you can see all those little chunks of wood that I used to fill up the piece. I just think this project is unique and cool, and it serves a function, which is, with all the things that I do, the whole purpose is utility and function. That's all I really care about. Sometimes I like to make those things pretty if I'm able to, but and I think I did with this, to be honest. But right here, I already think it looks great. And that's just the bottom. Oh God, am I gonna sand some more? Is that what's happening here? Oh, please stop. Just stop. Just stop. You're killing us, man. Let's skip to the end. Let's get as close to the end as we can get and finalize this video once and for all. Man, there we go. I kind of want to look at this. Look at that. It's really starting to shine. I must be nearing 4,000 grit at this point. I've used tons of bottles of water. That's the way I'm choosing to do it here. You see that? Look at that wood just kind of floating in there. It makes the wood look so beautiful. Because it's kind of dried up piece of ugly tree, you know. And you can see how cloudy it does get, and some of the resin on top. But boom, look at this. Look at what we have here. It's pretty damn close to the finished product. It's super cloudy at that point. I don't know if I sanded it anymore after this, but it really just didn't matter to me. The wood looks great. It's just kind of a unique little piece that goes to my bed, and it serves a purpose. I did end up, look at that, look at the side there. I did end up being really happy with it at the end. This is the side that shows, because a lot of the wood was kind of put into the corner of the mold when I poured, and you know, the other side had all those little chunks that I filled in. So it just lays right up against the side, and it looks super cool. And there's the bottom again with those weird little chunky details and all the bubbles that got trapped under there because I didn't care. Yeah, I really did end up being happy with this, especially being that it was kind of a learning project and first time doing something this large using resin, first time having to sand something so much. I was really happy with the way it turned out. Now it's a giant 77-inch long heavy piece of wood and resin that will surely be around longer than me. Look at that. The wood just looks so unique and interesting. And I like using old, rotted, nasty wood. It just has a charm to it. I'd like to do more projects like this using resin and using old wood. I don't know, there's a beauty to it that using perfect wood never really has. I got a lot of trees to cut down, so you can see the clarity coming out actually, because it's a little less cloudy. You can really see those pieces of wood popping out now a little bit more. And it looks like I don't have footage of myself actually bringing it into the room, but you will see it on the bed. One more look there. And here we go. Right into the bedroom scene. This is the bedroom scene. And it looks great. It's really cool. It's really unique. And as a matter of fact, I mean, excuse the mess of the bedroom, but since I'm just like, it's a preference of mine. I prefer a king bed to a cowl king. And you can get a cowl king frame and kind of squish a king mattress into the borders of it. And I think I would do this going forward with any bed that I have from now on. I like the thin little bench. I use it all the time now. I tie my shoes every day on that little bench. I could sit on it, or oftentimes I sit on the mattress and I put my feet up on the actual. Aw, Cash, buddy. Hey, you. What up? And that's the end of the video. But yeah, I will often. Let me end the screen here. I'll often actually put my butt on the bed and put my feet on that little bench, and that's where I tie my shoes. Super useful, super handy. I would do it again in the future with other beds that I buy. I just like the idea of it. Just a perfect little addition for getting ready in the morning, and I'm happy with the way it turned out. Even more, I'm happy that I was able to finish this video and not have to edit that monstrosity of a video that I tried to make. I can just move on with my life. But there it is. There's my big resin project. I would say the thing probably weighs, 100 pounds maybe. But it's cool. I'm happy with how it worked out. Next time I do a video like this, not like this, but like that, I'm gonna just record the highlights so I don't have to sit and dread the editing, you know? Yeah, it's something I'm learning as I'm making these videos, is that it's got to be entertaining, even for me, or else I won't do it. But thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for listening to me rant. This video is even longer than I had intended it to be, but at least I can be done. Coming soon, coming forward, I'm just going to kind of post things that I'm working on, things that are happening in my life, and see where things go. But thanks for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, thumbs up, subscribe, whatever, all those little YouTube things, and I will do my best to make better content and get these videos rolling out quicker. Cheers. Thanks for watching. See you later.